How's that working? I think that's probably working better without the loop there. Hi, everybody. No, I actually found the hat. It was in a box, and I drug it out. Not very comfortable, I got to admit, but it's the orange hat, all right. I'm quiet. Okay. Let's see. Also, no, having trouble. Line out. We need input devices. Let's see. How's that? Is that volume any better? Let's see. Checking. Probably about 100% seems good. I'm gonna get rid of the hat, guys. That is not very comfortable. Do the headphones though. I always like the headphones. Yeah, thanks, Copty. Cool. So I think we got the live stream working at this point. There's been a couple problems. I managed to lose every single setting to the live stream, so it went away, and I had to rebuild it from scratch. That was a little frustrating. That was not ideal. So in the past couple of weeks, I've been working quite a bit. We've got a ton of bugs removed from Scrumbleship and dealt with. So that's been great. Things are working a lot better than they have in the past. And let's see if we can get it going there. Performance has improved a little bit. There we go. Oh man. I let my visiting friend on here, and he left things a little odd. Oh man, why is that so horrible? Oh, it's because I'm live streaming, of course. That makes sense. Let's turn down the settings a little bit. Yeah, that's tolerable. Cool. So as you can see here, we're hitting a steady 60 frames a second, and we're able to render basically almost the entire ship here. There's currently about 600,000 voxels on the screen, and it's working quite well. Cool. I've been working with the back end for removing voxels and getting that a little bit more up to snuff. I've got the shape of it working quite well, and you can see as we mine into this plastic, that seems to work really well. But not only that, but we have this item, which replaces the voxels and allows you to repair anything that you've inadvertently mined away. So that's been kind of neat. I managed to get the hand-to-hand firearms. I managed to get those to the point where they're using the new back end instead of the really old back end. So I can do things like they'll more or less aim where I shoot them. Let's shoot some plastic. There it goes. And we've got two different types of shots. We've got this broad range shotgun type shot, and we've got this narrow narrow shot, and these are both very physically accurate. As you can see, the broad range shot, they both got the same amount of energy that's being imparted, and the broad shot has created this shallow wide divot, whereas the narrow shot has shot right through the plastic block. And it even behaves accurately on metals. Let's see, these must be metals. So you can see where now the narrow shot is having a very difficult time digging through, and the broad shot barely damages the block at all. Which also means that for a lot of these mixed blocks, let's see, there's a bed down there. Let's go grab... Where's the mining torch? I know I had one. Just place a new one. So let's see, that's under furniture, tools, torch rack. So cool, there it was. So we've got the mining torch. We're gonna turn our power all the way down, and now we do not have enough power to be able to dig through like this steel in the middle here. We can turn it on and it doesn't do anything. But if we go over to the bed here, get over to the bed, the tool will very happily mine away the wool and polyester that the bed are made out of, without damaging the steel frame. So every voxel is being accurately modeled here, which is kind of cool. Okay, Jacob asks, when we were doing the healing, did I heal the whole block or is the center hollow? The way the healing way works is that it heals in an area around you, and it prefers the farthest away voxels, and it heals closer to you. So any block that appears visually healed should be completely healed all the way through, although you may miss something every now and again. Cyrek seems very impressed that the mining works on the voxel level here, and it is kind of cool. And then we can look in our inventory, and don't ignore the negative values, but you can see that the what is it, polyester, we mined about 1,000 voxels, and we've got about nearly 500 wool voxels out of this bed. Scott asks if the damage carries over between clients. The damage does not carry over between clients yet. I was hoping to get that done this week, but one of the ways I tried to do it was this really complicated scheme of subdividing a block and sending portions of it, and I got it done. I got it done and I got it into testing, and I realized it's faster if I don't do this. And so I ended up having to scrap about 2 days worth of work, well, 1.5, somewhere in there. So the sending the voxel damage across clients isn't done yet, but we're coming up on it really rapidly. I've got a file format defined for how to store and send across the network voxel damage on the chunk level. So at this point I need to implement that, and I need to hook that up to actual network events. Both of those should take 2 or 3 days, and that's about it. So within about a week we should be seeing, depending on how rapidly I get to things, we should be seeing this voxel damage carrying over between clients, which is one of the last things on our list before the next full version, which is really exciting. I'm very excited for that. Jacob asks, when we repair, do we use voxels? That's actually a very good question. That's the reason we have negative 19 kilovoxels of nickel. Currently, the way I have it defined, it takes away the voxels, but it doesn't check the voxels when you go to heal. and that's just for testing purposes. It's because I wanted the ability to heal whether or not I actually had anything. So I need to fix that and re-add that, but that won't take long at all. Cool. We can also see other things. I meant to mention this. This is an engine block that has been coated in plastic, and it has these plastic wires, and we can actually mine away all the plastic components, and that allows you to see just what's underneath and the metallic portions of the engine. You can see the pistons here really clearly. Another good example of that is this gentleman right here, who is let's see, we're gonna switch to a gun terminal real quick. Let's see, that would be under storage. No, gun rack, tools. That makes sense. So now we've got our gun, and we are going to take aim at. This is a disembodied torso of the human player, and we're gonna fire a few times. And you'll notice that his steel armor is discoloring, but that's it. There's doesn't seem to be much happening. Well, that's because the gun heats things up quite a bit, quite warm, and it damages the steel voxels, but it does quite the number on the much squishier bits on the interior. So it turns out wearing a solid steel suit doesn't really protect you from heat rays that much, which is kind of a cool thing. I was showing that to my friend William a little bit earlier today, and that just kind of happened. I didn't really realize it would happen, but it definitely does. Oh, and we can do a similar trick with this table, shooting out just the plastic portions of it. Cool. One of the other things I wanted to show off. Previously, we had this system of marking reticles that you can see here. But what we didn't have, don't need that, is the ability to highlight one. You can see both our current distance from the target and our current relative speeds. So if I were to zip up to 70 meters a second, you can see that we are closing with our target quite rapidly. We can put the aiming reticle right there, and we aim exactly where we intended. We can do a similar trick to get back to the main station. Let's see. That's about a kilometer away. We're going to accelerate towards it. That's probably fast enough. And then we're going to aim our prograde reticle directly at the thing. And then we're going to crash. There's still a couple unsolved crashes in here. I've got some good data on them, and I'm working on getting rid of them. And I've gotten rid of a large number of them, but I don't have them all yet. But anyway, we can get to this block, which is the thing that's putting out the little navigation beacon here. It's called a nav beacon, and if we go into engineering, it's under beacons. You can place one of them per ship, and they can be any material you like. So let's go put one on a different ship. PVC, BBT. Yeah, let's do a polycarbonate one. And I think this is Cyrex ship over here. There it is. Well, we're going to go up to the top here, and we're going to place this little marker. And now you can see that we've got another targeting, another navigation beacon that allows us to navigate to a Cyrex ship. And it's differently colored than all the rest of them. Nav beacons have a certain maximum radius, and it's not that big, so you can still hide a ship if you want to hide a ship by just driving it far enough away. But this makes it a lot easier to be able to locate a ship in the cluster or locate a nearby ship. You can see that that it's very easy to navigate towards like the main ship, this testing ship that I built. Let's see, what tool do we have? No, we just have the build tool right now. I changed around the control scheme a little bit. It used to be that tab was kind of your cancel key, and I think Jaegert was saying that didn't make a lot of sense. And I started tinkering around with it, and I realized that there was a better system. So what you've got now is you start out in this info mode. So you have this in the upper right hand corner. You have this bit of information about all the blocks that you're looking at, your location, your speed, and all this useful information. And excuse me, gonna have a quick tea break. Oh, that's delicious. What was I talking about? Tea? No. But you have all this information, and then you can hit the Q key at any time, and you can get into build mode. So you're never that far away from this screen and being able to place a block, assuming you've got the voxels to do it. See, we've already placed a nav beacon on this ship. And then you can press tab to switch either out of build mode or into the tool that you have equipped. You can equip a torch tool. We've got a torch tool now, and we can press tab to switch between our main mode and our torch mode. Or if we're in the build mode, we can press tab to switch directly to the torch mode. So what this means is that you can now really easily access your info mode, your build mode, and one other mode of your choosing at any time. So we can put the torch back there, and instead we can grab one of these repair rays, and now we've got the little green reticle that tells us we're in repair mode. And we can go to build mode, we can switch out of build mode, we can switch to info mode. It makes a lot more sense, and it makes mining a lot easier. And of course, we can do the same trick with the hand-to-hand laser rifle weapon. So we're in laser rifle mode, we're in info mode, we're in build mode. Switch between all three of them, and it works quite well. There it goes. The big story, though, is the performance improvements. Those I spent, I think it was the week before last, on doing those. And the difference is just unbelievable. Like right here, we're at a solid 60 frames a second. Previously, our maximum frames a second was 30 almost always. But now we will be at 60 frames a second quite often, and it's actually really hard to get it to dip down below about 45 frames a second. There's only a few asteroids that can do it. The worst asteroid is this one right here. This is what I do most of my testing on. I'm gonna turn the flashlight on. There we go. And if I turn things up, cool. If I turn things up, I can just barely get it below 30 frames a second here. There we go. But that's quite extreme. There's over 1 million voxels being rendered on the screen there. And it doesn't take 1 million voxels to make something look quite nice. This looks quite reasonable for an asteroid. This is an asteroid mostly made out of chondrite with some aluminum in there, and you can actually see the aluminum sparkling. We can go in here and we can mine things out. And Now, if we check our inventory, we have 1,000 voxels of chondrite and 254 voxels of aluminum. So that whole mining subsystem is already working really well. Look at that. It's currently a little bit slower than I'd like it. I think I'm going to speed it up before the full version release. Oh, Copti mentions that the high frames per second comes at the cost of stuttering. You're probably seeing quite a bit of stuttering in this video. The game doesn't interact very well with my my rendering setup. And there is a known issue while ships are loading, which is anywhere from the first 2 minutes to the first 30 seconds of play. There's a stuttering issue on some platforms. I'm still trying to track that one down, and it's on my list, but I haven't fixed it yet. It doesn't seem to be related to the rest of the performance improvements. It's just that, well, with the performance finally getting good, it's finally getting noticeable. when there's an issue, you know. Oh, what's this? Is this osmium? No, silicon. Oh, and we got, okay. So here's something cool. With the new graphics system, the newish graphics system, it's been there for a month or two. But you can really see, like, we've got our flashlight here, and as we transition from one block to the next, you can see the little sparkles in the blocks changing color, which is a really cool effect. This it really catches my eye sometimes. Of course, you see the gold up here. I think that's sulfur. Yeah, that's sulfur. But we can. Boy, that mines quite well, doesn't it? There we go. So one of the things that I really have a lot of difficulty showing off is all the bugs I've been fixing this past week. I spent a really large amount of time fixing a lot of the little issues that a lot of people don't seem to notice. Well, they notice, but they don't stop the game. They just make it a little bit less fun to play. So I've been fixing a lot of little random stuff, making it work better. Like the mining torch, it had a few oddities, and it's a lot more reliable now, and it's a lot faster now. So a few people were having lag while mining, and that should be resolved now. So this, I think, is a solid ore asteroid. So it's mostly iron, and this is one of the failed asteroids from when I was testing the algorithm. Oh yeah, I should probably actually show off this this yellow beacon over here. Whoop, coming in a bit hot. Yeah. This, we got embedded in this, and we really shouldn't have. The game doesn't like it when ships are very close to one another, and that's something, it's a little bit more long-term, but it's something that I need to fix. So the fact that this ship is close to that ship can occasionally make it a little bit difficult for the game to figure out which ship you're actually in. Cool. What are we doing? About 7? Yeah, that's fine. Not sure what that thing is. But this, I forget. Oh man, somebody told me. Somebody mentioned that they had made this, and I forget who the individual was. But this is kind of a cool thing. They've made a little park scene with grass and a frozen lake out here, which is kind of cool. And they've done some really interesting things with the plate here. That's something I should mention. I changed slightly how the algorithm works as far as copying things goes. So each block has a base and each block has a front. It's been that way for a couple of live streams, I think. So when I go to place a block against another block, I can rotate it one of these 4 directions, and if I hold down the Alt key, then I can rotate it in these other directions. That might be more obvious, like with a light. Cool. So this light I get to rotate in 4 different directions, although since it's symmetrical, it only looks like 2. Ah! Campus mentions that he's the one that made this thing out here. Hi, Campus. Thank you for reminding me. And thank you for building the ship too. It's really a cool one. It's one of my favorites. So this guy you can rotate around in one of 4 directions, and then you can rotate it in these directions by holding Alt, and then rotate it around there. But one thing that you can also do, which was requested by Walloping, is you can highlight an existing block, and if you press Alt and then the copy block button, it will copy everything about that block, including the rotation. So no matter what now, we have the rotation of this block that we just copied. Oh, that tea is delicious. So that should make building a lot easier, particularly for complicated setups. For example, this setup right here, I think would be kind of complicated. Maybe not. But it becomes a lot easier now because we can direct copy that block, and now we always have that block, that rotation. Or we can direct copy that one, and we can always have that rotation. It makes it a lot simpler. Of course, we can do similar things to these kind of bricks, or this kind of brick, etc. I also slightly changed, I forget who suggested this, I think it was maybe Jack, but we've got all these different little poster boards up at the top here, and if I hit 2, because you can see the 2 up there, and I copy a block, then I can hit 3 and I can copy a different block, and I can have all of these as quick access blocks. So if I'm building a ship that makes like really heavy use of a couple of different blocks, like this ship uses quite a few of these big guys and these angles like this, and so I can have the big guys on 3, and I can have the various angles on 1 and 2, and it can make building a lot simpler. And that interacts with the block selection screen as well. I forget if I mentioned this last time, but I invested a little bit of effort in this right-hand side of things, and displaying various bits of information about what it costs to make any individual block. Like this is a diesel generator with PET plastic as the main material, and it gives you a breakdown of what voxels are required and all that, which will be getting used very soon, which is exciting. Okay, I'm going to travel up to here, and I'm going to pause for just a moment. Whoop! You're going to miss the... I should have paid more attention. That was my fault. See, I'm getting ahead of myself. Here we go. Nice slow approach. There we go. Well, I guess I'm just going to quit anyway. So one of the things that I want to bring people's attention to, if they haven't been following it, is this countdown to 0.35. This is the document that I've been working on and trying to get things solved. In the past week, that are the number of major bugs that I've solved bare minimum. I've actually solved more than that, but these were just the ones that were major enough that I thought they should be mentioned on this page. So the other things we have left to do is get the voxel inventory sending to and from the server. That's a part of the sending the damage to and from the server. And so with the work I've done this week, we're closer to that. That's coming very soon. We're trying to get the block damage sent to and from the server. I mentioned that I've got the format all created for that, and I've got a good idea how that's going to work now. That's going to tie right into this sending the inventory to and from the server, and it should work quite well. We've got, so I'm going to actually bring the game up. Let's see, where do I want to put that? Let's put that over there for now. We've got the Foundry system. I don't remember if I talked about it last live stream, but it's new enough that we can probably talk about it again without too much overlap. So where did I put those? Construction, Foundry. Cool. Whoop. That wasn't stopped. So we've got this Foundry block. And the general idea is that there are these recipes. You can go out to an asteroid. Excuse me. You can go out to an asteroid and mine various things. Like here, you might find an iron-rich asteroid and mine iron, and then you might find a carbonaceous asteroid and mine some carbon. And with those two things, you can throw a bunch of them into this foundry. And at the end, you get 4 kilovoxels of steel, which is one solid block of steel. So the idea is that you identify the recipe that you want, you hit start, and assuming you have the right ingredients, this critter starts going. It will take a certain amount of time, depending on the recipe, and then when it finishes, it'll display a little "I'm done" thing around it. And you'll go up to it, use it, and the new voxels will slip into your voxel inventory. So that's a cool subsystem that most of the component pieces are already there. There just needs to be a backend available on the server to automatically take care of this kind of stuff. So that's coming very rapidly. Let's see, where did I put that design document? So you can see that the actual user interface for that is already complete. I just need to add more recipes, and I need to get the server backend for that complete. You can see most of the recipes available at the moment. We've got the synth diamond one, and we've got a chondrite breakdown recipe, which is kind of cool. Chondrite is composed of a crazy number of different materials and minerals, and there's actually numerous subtypes of chondrite, but I've tried to make one that's kind of an average of most of them and return something that's vaguely realistic. It's not 100% realistic, but it's fairly close. That's quite good. Whoop. Campus, you may need to change your name there real quick, or just delete your options file. There is a bug that I was Walloping noticed at first, and then I managed to recreate it earlier today, where if we go out for a very long distance, which I'll just do here real quick while I'm thinking about it. But if we go out for a very long distance, the game will start to crash. And I haven't tracked down what's causing that yet, but it's very reliable, and I should be able to track it down without too much difficulty. And you can see 4 kilometers, 5 kilometers, we're receding from them at 250 meters a second. There it goes. So there's the crash. It's very duplicatable. But now that I've got it duplicated on my system, its days are numbered. Probably won't take more than an hour or two to tamp that one down. Let's see, where were we on this list? Force block creation to spend voxels. I've already got the back-end subsystem for forcing things to make voxels, for listing voxel requirements. So this is almost done, basically. That's kind of cool. Should probably finish that off. This scrumble get scrumble off thing, that's gonna be a major one, and it may actually come after the release. I can do that. I can push the release, and then scrumble auth and scrumble get can come a little bit later. Oh, as far as minor features goes, add some temporary method of selecting nearby objects for targeting. Well, we did that with the nav beacons, so I'm going to go ahead and mark that one off for the moment. Eventually, I want to get a map where you can toggle and select and pick which nav beacons you want lit up and which you don't really care about. But for the time being, it's just going to be those nav beacons that you place. Let's see. Do a strikeout on that, and end the strikeout. Jaegert mentions that the Scrumble Ship livestream should be called State of the Voxels. That's very accurate. I like that. Cool. So apparently we just marked one off ourselves. The nav beacon suggestion was, I believe, I want to say it was Jack and Walloping? No, it was the Ensorceler and Walloping. Came together, and a half of one guy's suggestion and a half of the other guy's suggestion, and I realized that I could set that up. Jacob asks, Dirk, what is the plan for supporting surround sound? I think it should just work. Currently, we only have one type of sound, and that is a mono sound that plays from within the player's suit. Honestly, because this is a space game, that will probably be the majority of sounds. Sound in space doesn't transfer. Remote explosions don't transfer. The only thing that does transfer are the sound of things hitting your suit, which is going to be an immediate noise, and anything that's generated from you, so like breathing or heartbeats and whatnot, or the jetpacks, which are they're a mono noise too. They're not stereo or anything. However, eventually I do want to have atmospheres in ships, and atmospheres do transmit sounds in 3 dimensions. And for, yeah, Jacob mentions in atmospheres stuff with the inside the ships. So for those, I went ahead and made sure that the system that I am making my sound in the game, the library, is OpenAL, which is a 3D positioning sound system. So all I particularly need to do is add in 3D information to any sound, and OpenAL should take care of either splitting that sound into stereo or splitting that sound into surround sound without any real work on my part. I like not doing work. It's one of my favorite things. So other stuff that's on this list. Add more types of asteroids. Currently, I think we have 4. Let's go take a quick look at those. I'll be able to verify. Let's see. Assets, text, asteroid types. Okay, so we've got 4 major groups of asteroid. We've got the C group, which are the carboniferous asteroids. We've got the S type, which are solid, really high metal asteroids. Most of them are almost completely metal. They're the second most common type of asteroid. We've got X-type, which I can't quite remember. I think they're a medium metallic type. And then we've got O-type asteroids, which are everything else. And that's in descending order. The carbonaceous asteroids are the most common by far. They've got a lot of chondrite in them. And then the S-type asteroids after that, and then the X-type, and then the O-type. I intend to have a lot of fun with the O-Type. I have some like really weird set pieces that occur very rarely for you guys to stumble across. Kind of almost Easter eggs, but not quite. Same general vein though. So at the moment we have one type of asteroid per group, which is not ideal. But I need to add a few more of those. I've got the language for defining them completely defined. So it's just a few days worth of work that I need to do. And then have the server place new asteroids as players explore. That's partially done. I've got a back-end system for that. That's tricky. I wonder if I've done something. Campus seems to be trying to connect and play with us, but he's unable. I'd like to get a copy of his log at some point if I can manage it. It's tricky. Oh, and then there's a few more bugs. The tutorial is horribly out of date. Let's take a look at that thing. We can't. The tutorial shows up underneath the info screen, and there's no way of removing the intel screen, the info screen. So yeah, the tutorial needs an update. Sunlight and flashlights are currently not rotated correctly alongside the rest of the ship. That's a very solvable issue. I just haven't done it yet. The OSX build. I have found a way to cross-compile application builds for OSX. Campus says that he'll send that log file. That'll be cool. I need logs/errors.txt and logs/segfaults.txt, and I'll be able to knock out whatever errors you're having in pretty short order. But the Macintosh build, I found a way to do an application bundle on my platform for OSX, which should make the game function in the newest version of OSX. It wasn't, and it should make the game a lot easier to run in OSX. So that's exciting. That's coming. And then when you remove a block with the mining tool, currently it doesn't actually remove it. That's a quick check I need to do. I just didn't get it in before the live stream. And then there are some minor rendering issues with Ruby and Emerald. Just those two, nothing else. And I haven't tracked those down yet. I think I'm probably like transposing something, because they're still rendered, but when they get damaged, they turn really black. I think I just figured out what went wrong. That's great. It's probably a weird roughness value in their materials file. I should be able to fix that, no problem. And then our direction of thrust, I can show that off real quick. That's a bug. I spent about an hour this morning tracking it down, and I found it to within about 100 lines of code, but no farther. So I am aimed directly at that yellow thing, and I'm going to press the W key. And you'll notice that our direction of travel is a couple of degrees off. Now it's really easy to correct that. You just press left and you press down a little bit and you adjust it. But it is frustrating because, as it is, it's very accurate as to where we will end up traveling. We will definitely sail right by the yellow thing despite having aimed at the yellow thing. Look at that. It's quite pretty as it sails by. There it loads. There's the logs. Thank you, Campus. I'm going to take a look at those after we get out of the live stream. And I'll, it might take me till Monday, honestly. I've got a couple other things that I need to do later on today. Cool. So, and that's about it. There's a couple other minor bugs that were minor enough that I went ahead and just postponed them. like the sun not casting a shadow. That eventually I want to solve it, but it really doesn't need to block the next release. It's just something I do want to get done eventually. Probably when I get more accurate general shadows. I've done some test work on that in the past, and that test work can be applied to the current state of shadows. So we'll definitely have shadows at some point, and then we can definitely have sun shadows at some point. Cool. But these major features are the ones I really want to get done. And man, they're happening. With the new work on the mining subsystem, sending the voxel damage to and from got a lot easier. Figuring out how to send the voxel damage. I can show off some of the code if anybody's interested in that kind of thing. Saves.c. So this is the code I was working on right here for the chunk damage save format. My first attempt was this octtree-like, not an octtree-like structure at all. It's a full octtree that was settled down on top, which an octtree is it's a way of subdividing space down so that you theoretically use a lot less space to specify the same final state. So in this case, we're trying to specify a damage state, and we can use an octtree to specify that state. So I created this octtree, and I figured out a way to, like an octtree in memory is in no particular order, but to send it across the network, you have to put it in an order. So I figured out a way to create this octtree, I figured out a way to put it in a set order so I could send it across the network, and then I figured out a way to compress it with our usual compression, and I compared that compression against just compressing damage directly, and it turns out our normal method of saving damage is really efficient. I felt like such an idiot after that. But it's almost twice as good to just save the damage directly instead of attempting to do my little fancy octtree thing. But it's actually kind of a good thing. Even the most heavily damaged chunk I was able to make was only about 6 kilobytes, which on any modern machine means that we should be able to send several chunks worth. And a chunk is, I'll give you an idea how big a chunk is. So we'll be able to send several chunks worth of data across the network at any given time. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Flashlight there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we need 10 across. Okay, we're gonna start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we got one there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm making a big box here, and unless I've messed up my math, which, you know, is entirely possible, I can do all this fancy math and then successfully counting to 10? Oh, but it's impossible. But this, I mean, it looks more or less correct. Let's do another strut over here. Cool. So this big box right here is the size of a chunk. So no matter how badly damaged it is, the worst damaged chunk that I was able to create using the normal tools was something in the range of 6 to 8 kilobytes. So let's see what that means. A really slow connection on a modern computer might be like 100 kilobytes per second, which would be, let's see, that's about 10, 15 chunks per second. So in the first second, you would be able to download all of the damage on this ship, for example. So that's excellent. Once I do get the damage sending across the network, it should send across the network really rapidly and show off really quickly, which I'm very excited for. That's interesting. You know, I'd never actually stopped to consider how large a chunk was. I manipulate these things all day for like numerous years of my life, and I've never drawn one. That's cool. Oh, good. A friend of mine. I can give her a call after the live stream, though. So cool. We've covered the performance improvements. Those are really exciting and really major. Despite the little jerkiness introduced by the live stream here. Whoops. How do I? There we go. Press the wrong button. We can still get like scenes like this at a full 60 frames a second, even though we're on live streams. Copty mentions that 100 kilobytes a second is absolutely nothing, and you're more or less correct. For a modern internet connection, 100 kilobytes per second is really slow, but I like to try to aim at really low targets and then blow past them. But anyway. We've covered the performance improvements. We've covered those little nav beacons, and I've showed off the new damage subsystems. Boy, that mine's really easy. One of the things that you realize really rapidly. Okay, so we're on full damage mode right here, and we just mow through these plastic voxels. And now I want to find some osmium. Oh, look at there, right at the first. Now we're going to try to mine some osmium. Let's do one block. We're going to try to mine that block of osmium. That goes a little bit slower. Turns out osmium is a lot tougher than plastic is. So there we go. We can grab a single block of this, and it's done. I think the current fastest to mine material might be this this blue stuff here. It's quite rapid. Yeah, it's really, I mean, wow. It's gone. Ah! Well, Cyrek, okay, Cyrek says, so don't make ships out of plastic. Got it. That probably shouldn't be your takeaway. So, osmium is amazing, but osmium is incredibly dense. Just one block of osmium is crazily dense. Let's go find the little ship. Oh, there's some. Okay. Currently, the ship is 175 tons. That's heavy, but that's very light for a ship that's already in orbit. And we're going to add one block of osmium onto him. Ship info. 197, what did I say before? 175. So that's like 27 tons for a single block. That's incredible. Compare that to like PET plastic, which is 1 ton per block. So if what you need is a light and somewhat strong method to connect two portions of a ship, plastic is perfect. You can connect the two portions of the ship and it's not going to slow you down at all. But what if what you want is an incredibly durable armor, then osmium is going to be the way to go. So a really good strategy might be to have plastic connecting struts to connect portions of the ship that are then armored with like osmium thin plate or something similar. So you don't end up having to push around a lot of mass, but the mass that you are pushing around is much more defended and defensible. Jacob asks about the voxels that fly away. Do the voxels that fly away count in your inventory? They don't. Currently, the way it works, and in the future this is going to get a little bit more accurate and a little deeper, but for the moment the way it works is that the faster you mine, the hotter you mine, the more voxels fly away, and the slower and cooler you mine, the more voxels go into your inventory. So you get the option to choose between whether you want voxels really rapidly and lossily, or if you want to capture every last single voxel that's in the block in front of you. Munashe mentions, I think I'll just build out of steel and nickel. That's not a bad plan. Let's see, let's find an asteroid. Or more accurately, let's find the correct asteroid that I'm thinking of. Do I have any tea left? Oh, I don't have any game left. Boy, there is something about tea. I just really enjoy that stuff. Okay, let's see, get rid of that. And we'll turn on the light. So, this is a very, very, very typical S-type asteroid. This is about 100 meters across, I think, which is, I mean, they're smaller. There's a bunch smaller asteroids, and there's a bunch bigger asteroids. It's not really middle of the pack. Middle of the pack is a little larger, I think. And it depends on how you define middle, whether it's the median or whether it's some average associating mass. But this thing is almost entirely solid iron and solid nickel with a little bit of trace amounts of cobalt, which, that's a lot of metal. This thing, the previous ship was 175 tons of iron, and this thing is 382,000 tons, kilotons, of iron and nickel. So, there's a lot of ship you could build out of this. This would be a very good place to start. I do have a little bit of chondrite included in here. I think this block, yeah, this Densor block has a little bit of chondrite sprinkled in, but those are rare. And, I'm going to go down. Somewhere in here, there should be cobalt blocks, but I don't. They're rare. There's usually, on an asteroid of this size, there's anywhere between 4 or 5 cobalt blocks in here, and trying to find them. Oh, is that one? Yeah, look at that. There's the cobalt. That's pretty. Kind of a bluish color. Sorry, Cyrek. Ship and other words do sound kind of similar, and are also spelled kind of similar. So, upon occasion, I've searched through the Scrumble Ship source code files to make sure I haven't misspelled something. But no, I intended ship. Let's see. Pete. I don't think I've chatted with you before. Hi, Pete. Will we ever be able to build on an individual voxel level? That's an interesting question. The answer is probably yes. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. In Scrumble Ship, we do not have the concept of the individual voxel, for the most part. We have the concept of the block, and we have the concept of damage on top of a block. However, there are ways I can kind of munge those two concepts together to create something that, from your guys' perspective, from a user perspective, looks almost... Thank you for self-censoring there, Jaeger. We can kind of munge those two concepts together, this concept of a solid block and this concept of a damaged solid block, and get a block that, from your guys' perspective, looks as though you were building on an individual voxel level. The physics of it won't be entirely accurate. Heat transfer through damaged blocks is kind of fuzzy. It's not as physically accurate as a full simulation, but it's a lot more physically accurate than every other game I've ever seen. But it's not perfect. Whereas heat transfer between full individual blocks is a lot more rigorously simulated, although speeded up a bit from reality, because I don't want battles to take 8 hours. So yeah, like long convoluted, boring answer, shortened down considerably. Yeah, you'll probably be able to do something that looks a lot like building on the individual voxel level eventually. If I were to reconfigure how the healing ray works, we could have that now. There's really nothing, there's no technical measures in the way there. Munashi mentions that he wishes we could see the abomination that he built in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, I kind of do too. I'd like to go and visit that. There's a crash associated with it at the moment because it's. You remember that when we drove really far out. I'm cheating my way through the blocks here. The crash that happens when we drive really far out happens to Munashi as well. So whenever he tries to go visit his ship, the game crashes. So that's literally top of my list to fix. That's the major crash that I really want to get finished. Cool. That brings us up on about an hour, and I've been trying to make these about an hour long. I think that's about the right time frame. Before I go, any other questions about where we are, where we're going, how the game's working, that kind of thing? Cool. We got a few questions. Pete mentions, cool. He's talking about his earlier question about the individual voxel level. I like to try to make tiny ships in this game, where I use every square millimeter. So currently the smallest resolution is, let's see, 6.25 by 6.25 by 6.25 centimeters, which is a voxel, which is about this big. Let's put it next to my head. So anything smaller than that probably isn't going to show up. But you can definitely design on that level and get some fairly delicate ships, very small ships out of that. Let's see. Munashe, when will I be able to kill others in games? Well, if you're very clever about it and very persistent, you could probably do it now. It's tricky. I assume you're more or less asking when will I be able to shoot other people. For player-to-player combat, there is a back-end change that needs to happen before they can shoot each other. There's actually two back-end changes. So when I release the next version, I'm going to be releasing a little, like a tech tree, here we go, like a tech tree. I don't know, maybe that hand gesture meant anything, I don't know. But I'm going to be releasing a tech tree alongside the next version, so that the Patreon subscribers can vote on what I implement next. And if they want to push me down the path where players can shoot other players, that'll happen fairly rapidly, within a few weeks. But if they want to push me in another direction, then we'll go in another direction, and we'll have something else first. So there's about 2 different back-end changes that need to happen before player-to-player weapons fire actually functions. And how long those are going to take, I don't know. Copty asks, when will the next version be out? That's a good question. The question that I've been giving for like the past 6 months is another month. But that's frustrating. There's some personal frustrations there. But we're coming up on it. We're coming up on it really rapidly. This document is the gold standard to follow. As these turn yellow, as these turn green and finished, once all these turn green, that's the next version. Most of these items shouldn't take more than about 2 weeks. So I'm going to up my estimate from the never-ending month, as it were, to 2 to 3 weeks, somewhere in there. We're coming right up on it. And summer won't end before we'll have a new solid full version of Scrumbleship with actual, like, you have to mine stuff to be able to build stuff. Munashe talks about the tech tree and the fact that only Patreon people can subscribe, can vote on it, as a very complex way to request funding. And yeah, well, like the live stream that you're watching now, the only reason I'm doing live streams is that I promised it to the Patreon people. So this live stream brought to you by our amazing subscribers at Patreon. Whee! So yeah, the Patreon people are at the moment what is allowing me to continue working on this thing full time. They're getting pretty good value for their money, because I work like 12 hours a day on an average day, and I'm pulling in about $300 a month. So there's some good value going on there. But yeah, I'm just really thankful and really glad I'm able to do it. Let's see. Where are the ducks and the caterpillar? The caterpillar's over by my bed. You can't see him, but he's still there. And the ducks are, I don't know, they're probably hiding under a bush. They're probably eating my gooseberries is what they're doing. Ducks. I've got a couple other questions here. Secretu asks, have you been working out, or what is that thing behind you in real life? This is an elliptical. So apparently the human body was not designed to sit in one orange chair for 12 to 16 hours a day, every day, for 5 years. I don't know why that seems to be an issue, but it does. So earlier today, I bought an elliptical. I spent about $50 because my blood pressure, people take my blood pressure and then they look at me and they look confused and worried and disturbed. So I've purchased an elliptical. It was about $50, which I really figure I can't go too wrong on. And I'm hoping to that was literally earlier today. I'm hoping to start in on that either every day or every other day. Probably every other day to start. I'm, for some reason, sitting in one chair all the time. I'm not in that great a shape. So yeah, it's part of my workout thing that I am apparently starting, like everyone who has ever purchased a piece of equipment. Let's see. Pete asks, what size hole can your character fit through? That's a good question. Currently the answer is too small a hole. If we take the firearm here, and let's go to something soft like sulfur. Sulfur is fairly soft. And we punch a very careful hole. Okay. A very careful hole that we thread carefully. We can go through that. That's about the smallest hole that you can go through. And that's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 10 inches across, which is a little bit under a foot. Line her up. There we go. A little under a foot. And that's, if you're a very thin human being, you could fit through that, no problem. I was a caver. I have fit through places that you would not think a human would fit through. But it wouldn't be comfortable. All our characters are wearing fairly skin-tight suits. But this is a little bit too small. I need to create more protections for figuring out the smallest hole that a player can go through. And it should probably be about the size of the current airlock. That seems about right for the size of hole. Or alternatively, if we go over here, and we grab our mining torch, this size hole seems really, that seems about right for fitting a human into. So, like, eventually I'd like to make it about a block size, but for the time being, it's about a fourth of a block size, maybe a bit smaller. Copty asks, when is Scrumble coming out on Steam? That's a good question. It used to be that I had issues with Steam. Nowadays, they actually seem like a really decent company. I really like the direction that they've traveled and gone, pushing Linux and pushing the right to refund. Those seem really awesome to me. There's things that I was doing for quite some years. So I'm really kind of happy with them. At the next full version, we're going to be coming out on a service called itch.io. I believe it's called itch.io. I can check it, but it doesn't really matter. And they're another marketplace, and they seemed really eager to have Scrumble ship on there. So I'm looking forward to coming out on that one. Hopefully we'll get a few more sales, start building the community a little bit. If I can get any spare money, like coming through the Patreon or something, I'll probably start advertising again. That was a moderate source of income, and like turning $25 into $50, that kind of thing. So that might be a good way to start getting a little bit more of a Scrumble ship community. And then once we have a little bit more of a community, we can probably make a successful push to get it onto Steam. But I wanna have a solid game going, which we're getting really close to, and I want to have a little bit larger of a community before we start pushing for Steam. Pete mentions, get a standing desk. I had one for a while. What I really need is a desk that I can switch to between standing and sitting, because I can't stand for 16 hours a day just flat out to start. That's just not happening. And I've built all my own desk stuff, so I could design something that would do that, but it's minorly low on my to-do list. Man, my to-do list is so giant, and I keep pushing things off of it so I can code more Scrumble ship. Shows you where my priorities are. which is probably not a bad thing for a game creator. Cool. Munashi mentions we're in huge suits. You're right. The current layers on the human are a little bit exaggerated. I did the math earlier today, literally earlier today, and the average human head size in Scrumbleship is about 10 inches across. No, 10... Was it 10 inches? Oh, I'm going to go measure. I was doing it earlier today, but apparently I don't have a memory. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 voxels across times 2. That's about a 14, 15-inch head. So that's about more than a foot wide. So that's a big head. But it's that big so that we can get the appropriate resolution to be able to put eyes in there, and for the body to be able to put like ribs and organs in there. It makes more sense for the cow. A human is a little bit small to show up in our system really accurately, but I think it's more important that the human look like a human than the human be exactly the right size. Munashi mentions that he will shill for me on 4chan once the game becomes more gaming. Yeah, we were on 4chan once before. They suggested a few materials that I implement in the back end, and I did that. So we've had a little bit of interaction. They seem fine. They seem fine. Some boards seem fine. I should amend that. I should really amend that. So yeah, that's an option. There's a lot of people there. Cool. And I think we've hit about the end of the questions, so I'm going to wrap this up. Oh, I should mention, work next week for about the first half of the week is just going to be dead stop. Where I store the test server, where I put the website, is a server over in Denver. And our co-location company is doing some weird changes, so I have to move everything off of the server and get a new server set up with the website and with the test servers and everything, and that's going to take 2 or 3 or 4 days, depending on how things go. So be prepared for a little bit of a slowdown through early next week, and then I'll dig into Scrumbleship again. Yeah, dirkson has some nice antlers here. So yeah, early next week is going to be a little bit slow, and then I'll dig back into Scrumbleship, and we're going to finish off those last few items. We're getting close. So exciting. Cool. It's been great chatting with y'all. And I hope you have a great the rest of your day. Have a good 4th and whatnot for those people who are in America. And for those who aren't in America, also have a good 4th. But don't celebrate it as hard as apparently we do, with lots of explosions everywhere. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun. Talk at you guys all later. Bye.